Have you ever thought about quitting, or did you quit something before? Well, then listen up, because I want to share with you my experience about this. First, I have to mention that I was born in the east of Latvia and I moved to Switzerland by the age of 7, where I've been living for almost 17 years. Switzerland is a country where military service is mandatory for every male. I personally always wanted to do my service, and since I grew up trilingual, meaning I spoke Latvian, Russian and German fluently, I wanted to become a specialist in languages, or in other words, a diplomat, which is a unique position in the military. For that, I had to pass an exam to show off my language skills. Usually people apply for this position while they're doing their service, but when I showed up to the exam, I was the only one there in civilian clothes and I haven't even reached the age of 18 yet. And the best part was that I passed this test with ease, meaning once I got to do the recruitment process at age 18, I was already set with my position and my future in the military. So I knew what was coming at me once I started my service, or so I thought. My service started in February 2021, so I was 20 at that point and just committed to a romantic relationship a couple months before. This was also during the pandemic, so there was a lot of changes to the program, especially regarding our free time. See, usually military personnel gets to go home every Friday or Saturday and then return on Sunday evening back to the military. But since there was a pandemic, this wasn't possible, meaning we had to stay there for 3 to 4 weeks straight before we could go home. This also meant that my expectations were already destroyed. This wasn't a good start. Despite that, I still managed to perform well physically and mentally, so I never got in trouble by my instructors and I managed to have a good relationship with my squad. Here's the first lesson. Once something starts to go well, you can be sure that at some point something is about to go wrong. For me, this was my relationship at that time. I was a very weak man at that point of my life and I gave in her demands, which means that every minute that I had there, I spent with her on the phone just so she wasn't alone. This took away my focus from the thing that mattered. I was losing track of the objective. If that wasn't enough, my mother called me one day and told me that she had an infection on her leg, which numbed her leg from time to time, and it even had the possibility to turn lethal. My anxiety went crazy. At this point, I was only 3 weeks into the service and the time finally came to go home over the weekend. Everybody was joyful. I got back to my city and there was my girl waiting for me. We hugged, we kissed and went back to my place. There was also my mother, who gave me the same reaction, but for some reason I was not able to feel the same. Mentally I tried to stay in the military, but this didn't last for long. The next day I returned to the military ground and we continued the program as usual. For me, everything got worse from this point on. I got to see my mother and my girl again, and this weakened me even more. So much so that I wanted to be there for them and stay at home for once. This was the moment where I mentally quit and couldn't go back anymore. I found a way to quit my service and switched over to the civil service, which was an alternative for people who couldn't go to the military in the first place. To be honest, I was never more ashamed of myself. When I turned in all my gear, I still had a lot of things that I brought from home, and since I had to even return the luggage, all that I was given to carry my things was a large recycling bag. I looked like a complete loser, and the shame only grew bigger once I stood like this in front of my mother and my girl. The worst part of this whole story is that I missed out on the opportunity to learn discipline. I missed out on doing something I've been really good at, and the effort I did to get there was completely useless at that point. I also left my squad behind. I have failed in every aspect. This decision still haunts me to this day, and the girl even ended up cheating on me, so I lost on both fronts. My mother's infection fortunately went away, and again there was nothing to be worried about anymore. All the challenges I had to face would eventually get solved anyway, and now I was there like a fool who quit after only 4 weeks in for something he built up for 3 years. The time after quitting was even worse. Almost 3 years have passed and there is still this voice inside of me calling me a loser for making that decision, and it forced me to find a new purpose in life. I truly regret this decision. So the moral of the story goes as follows. When you have put a lot of effort into something you're very enthusiastic about, don't quit. When your expectations have not been met, don't quit. When life gives you challenges to force you to quit, don't quit. When everyone around you is telling you to quit, don't quit. When you feel like you can't go anymore, don't quit. You will regret this for the rest of your life, and there is no way to go back. If you have a story on your own where you decided to quit, or you're thinking about it right now, let me know in the comments or send me a private message. Also, if you're interested in these kinds of topics, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. I will see you in the next video. Until then, remember, don't quit.